Hi, this is Bryan Fuller, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
I love you. I love you, Bryan. This is so much fun. I've known Bryan for over 25 years now. We were in the Army together. We were the two guys that were strong on athletics. So if there was stuff that was hard to do, like carry something heavy, we would do it. We dealt with ridiculous every day. Here's the funny thing is we were spies. And if you saw us day to day working, you'd be like, there's no way these clowns could ever be any kind of spies at all. And yet we deployed and we did it all. It's hilarious, Bryan, when I think back all of the years, all the times we visited, we became fast friends. It took us, 30 seconds to know that we were going to be friends for life?
As soon as I met you.
Yeah. It's incredible. So you've been on the show a couple of times. You run a thing called Power Rowing. It's a fitness studio that uses rowing as its mechanism. And you're in Brookline, Mass. And I'm sure without the pandemic, it'd probably be 5 more locations already. But you guys are out there cooking. You're on Harvard Street in Brookline, which is a suburb of Boston. First off, let's talk about Power Rowing and because you've built something incredible on your own. This is what you do. The community part is what I think is really important. So let's start right there.
So when I started Power Rowing, I really took like a logical approach to like what works and what doesn't work. So I took classes all over Boston, different studios, and I love some instructors, didn't like some instructors, love some environments, didn't like some environments. But I said, what are we missing here? And I said, let's think about the motivation people have for going to the gym. And how do we change that motivation? Because so many people go to the gym and don't go for 2 weeks, then go to a gym and go to another gym, and it becomes like you don't really become. You see real results when you become dedicated to something. So whether it's spin or Krav Maga or in my case rowing, it's getting people to really make athletics and incorporating exercise in their life as part of their day-to-day regimen. So how do you do that? You have to change the way people think about it, okay? And so one of the things we try to do at Power Rowing is we really try to develop a community at Power Rowing. And one of the ways we do that simply is when you come in, we address you by your first name. Everybody's on a first-name basis. If Pete came in, I'd be like, hey, Pete, this is Mike, this is Steve, this is Jen. Pete's a radio guy. Oh, Mike has a radio. You guys should talk. And then spark a conversation that way. So many gyms you go to, you don't meet anybody in there. But more than that, I try to get people excited about working out and rowing in particular by offering various charity challenges. Most specifically, our challenges are generally local, small charities that could benefit from a couple $1,000s, 5, maybe 8, something like that. But COVID sort of changed things, and so we've gone sort of international.
Yeah, and the charity part's a powerful part of what you do because you get people motivated. Do you feel like these people are otherwise not motivated enough to do these things? Are you not only encouraging the workout, but also encouraging that charitable charter?
I think there's a broad spectrum, though. But I get emails all the time. They're like, I've never worked out this hard in my life. I get that email, I don't know, 3 times a week. I never worked out this hard in my life. Thank you so much for setting up a training regimen for me. Thank you so much for being part of this charity thing. So people become super dedicated to something. So we're working on a kind of a new challenge right now. We're just about to start today. And it's honestly the biggest indoor rowing challenge ever, anywhere. U.S. rowing, international rowing, doesn't matter. This is the biggest challenge rowing ever. And so I'm really going to ask people to do more than they've ever done before.
So I guess I want to back up for a second.
Sure.
When you encourage people to do these things for charity, are you also coaching them in this regard? I mean, because look, I believe that any person who's got any adult that has any level of stability needs to start building on how they do charity. And it requires effort. It's not easy. I always say charity's not easy. These are hard problems you're trying to solve, whether it's homelessness or cats, whatever it is in between. You got to work at it. How hard are you coaching folks to get? I mean, they get involved, but how much incentive are you creating by doing what you do through the gym?
So what I do is I try to present the charity that we're raising money for, or trying to raise awareness for, or however we're trying to do, in the form of a challenge. So I might say I have 100 people signing up. Okay, we're gonna roll for this particular charity, right? So I have 100 people signing up, and so what I'll do is I'll break them down into teams of 10, and I'll say, okay, now the teams of 10 are competing against each other. Okay, and there'll be awards, and then maybe we have more than one charity. The winning team gets to pick the charity. We have a big party at the end. It's like a gala celebration. They have live bands. There's like a big potluck lunch or dinner. So there's like everything has like little levers, and the more levers you pull, the more results you'll get. And so one thing is like, as a charity, oh well, yeah, that's a good thing. Oh, now you're part of a team. Oh, teamwork. I like that, teamwork. Oh, now it's a competition. Oh, we got to win now, right? And then there's an award ceremony at the end. They're like, oh, no, I really want that award. So you start pulling all these different levers, and people change their mindset about how they think about working out. And now it becomes like, I wonder what I can do, rather than like, I have to do this. It's like, what can I do? There's people depending on me. I gotta go. So I have people like, okay, kids, look, just have a sandwich. I'll make dinner in a little bit, okay? And like, it gets to be that kind of thing. Yeah, it's okay if you're late for school today. I've got to finish this up, It dramatically changes the mindset for people about prioritizing their workout rather than like, well, I guess I got nothing going on this afternoon. Maybe I'll go get a workout in. This becomes more like you really start thinking about your body, thinking about what you can do. And I find people that buy into my concept have dramatic body changes. It's pretty incredible. The dedication that people start when they really start saying, well, I'm going to work out 3, 4, 5 days a week. It's like the weight comes off, the muscles come on, I have more energy, and you get amazing results. And so along the way, you're doing something amazing. And then at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I feel great. And it's so funny when I do these challenges because a lot of them are really long. They're like I'm just finishing up a 3-month challenge for an indoor rowing race called the Crash Bees. And it's a really hard set of workouts. And we're just coming to the end of it. And people are already like, so what next? What next?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of that. But yeah, really trying to change the way people think about working out in general. It's less about, looking at yourself in the mirror and more about looking at you in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. And the charity thing then obviously plays a big part of that. I mean, you're giving them opportunities like we're doing this for charity.
It's huge. So like I said, people get really passionate about it, especially if it's something where they feel like they have like an influence. Like if we're raising money for, I don't know, the American Red Cross, which is a great charity, but they have billions and billions. So our couple $1,000s doesn't make necessarily a big difference. But if we raise money for a local food bank for kids that don't get school lunches, like a couple $1,000s can make a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
So we try to focus on things where we can make a little bit of a difference.
No, that's great. And as soon as I'm able, I want to get on a helicopter, a plane, and come out to Boston, and I want to do one for Save the Brave. By the way,
yeah,
SaveTheBrave.org. All you got to do is click on that link, put a couple bucks in each month, and we'll put it to work. But I definitely want to get Bryan and his rowing crew to do this.
No, give him a plug. I love it.
No, it's my charity. I'm good. Yeah.
Give him a plug.
So So the other thing I wanted to ask you about was why rowing? Like why? I mean, look. So for everybody who doesn't know, you should watch the earlier episodes. But Bryan rowed across the Atlantic Ocean, which is funny, Bryan. I saw a headline today about so and so became the youngest American to row across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
I didn't see that story about you though. Or like fastest American ever, fastest redhead ever, fastest veteran ever. I didn't see those stories. Why? Or you don't have a very good PR person, maybe. I don't know. You rowed across. You rowed across the Atlantic Ocean.
So two things happened when I rowed across. There's actually a race called it used to be called the Woodville Challenge. Now it's called the Talisker Challenge, right? Most people row in the Talisker Challenge. We rowed after the Talisker Challenge. So Talisker as a company was promoting the race. They have a big PR machine. We didn't jump into that because we were going for a record. And when you go for a record, there's kind of less rules around it. Like one of the rules are you need to have a 30-pound anchor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No. What are you going to anchor on in the Atlantic? And just, there's not enough rope you could carry on the boat to get the thing to hit the bottom. It's about a mile down. So why do you have an anchor? It's just 30 extra pounds you don't need. So there's a lot of things that, like, they requires you to bring 60 days worth of food, right? We brought 30 days worth of food. So we didn't have to carry that extra 30 days worth of weight of food. There's a lot of different things that they require that are probably extraneous. We just want to be as light as possible. She's also the youngest. The sport's evolved a lot in the last almost 10 years now. So it's become a lot more of a headline. So people that are setting these records, oldest rower, youngest rower, first rower from China, first rower from India, something like that, it has much more of a weight than like just another American that rowed, whether he was fast or not. And I've since been eclipsed.
Oh, whoa,
yeah,
okay.
I'm not the fastest American anymore. As far as I know, I'm like, I think there's like a whole team of Americans that crushed us. So I think we're the 5th or maybe 6th fastest team ever. We I had a little brief moment in the sun. That's fine. Every record's meant to be broken.
Well, and you were planning, you were fixing to break the record before, and obviously the pandemic kind of changed your plans. Are you still going to get back to that world record attempt?
I want to. So I had a bit of a health scare this year. So not a lot of people know this. So back in November, I actually had a stroke.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But it was as good a stroke as you could have. Like I walked into the hospital, walked out of the hospital. But it definitely gave me some perspective about being out in the water or something like that for a month or so. Everything seems to be great. There was it's how to change the way. Before, I would burn the candle at both ends constantly. I would have no problem teaching 5 classes in a day. And now I teach 2 or maybe 3, and I cut it off. And I try to take it, I won't say a day off, but I have at least one day where I only have 1 class. So I cut things way back. I would like to do it again. I have a couple people I want to do it with. I'd love to go for another record. I still feel like, there's some strategies we could implement to really break that 30-minute barrier by a lot, 30-day barrier. There's enormous amount of expense involved. It's about $150,000, $200,000 to do the row across. We had some corporate sponsors that were interested last time we looked at this. COVID kind of messed it all up.
Right. Yeah. By the way, just because you like rowing and stroking to get healthy does not mean you have to go all the way and do all the strokes. You can skip the actual internal strokes. Just keep them on the boat or on the rower. Come on. I'm glad you're well. I'm glad that you dealt with this. As we hit our 50s, we're all going to have significant health scares. And that's just a fact of life. So I'm glad that if this is the one, then I'm glad that you got away with it pretty clean.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the results, except for the bill. But other than that, I'll deal with that.
But you talked about this new attempt, and let's get into that because this is interesting. You were going to indoor row, or however you want to call it, circumnavigate the globe with a bunch of other maniacs that want to go out and do this with you. And I don't understand how the whole process works, but let's describe this and tell folks where to get information on this.
Okay, so let me just give you a brief history. Normally, every spring, we'd have a huge charity challenge that would last like 2 months. And it was our big event of the year. I'd have 100 people sign up for it. Teams would pick charities, and the charities would compete against each other. Then we have a huge gala at the end. It was a huge deal for us. And it kind of marked the end of the season because then summer comes and things kind of slow down a little bit. This year, obviously, we couldn't have it, or last year we couldn't have it. And I was like, all right. So we were going to socially distance, and we really started doing more and more with Zoom and more online. And I was like, well, what if we did an indoor rowing relay? And I looked up the previous record because it's not actually recorded by Guinness, but I think like 10 years ago, a group of prison guards from New Zealand did a 12-day row, 24 hours a day, and they went like 3.5 million meters or 3.8 million meters, something like that. That's my understanding. And I said, well, we could totally beat that. So let's go 10 million meters. Right. So,
1 second. I don't even know how far 3 million meters is, and you triple it plus some.
So yeah, I don't know. So I was like, all right, let's just do 10 million meters. And
Okay.
so I'm very good at like coming up with an impossible idea and encouraging people to do that. It's kind of my specialty.
Okay.
So I put it out on Facebook. And one of the great things about Facebook is there's a ton of websites or a ton of Facebook pages devoted to people who row. And so I went on those pages and said, hey, I'm organizing this indoor rowing relay, and I want to raise money for Doctors Without Borders. And we're going to call ourselves Rowers Without Borders. And we're going to try to get rowers from all around the world. And so back in June, I set this up, and I probably shouldn't have, but I paid for the whole thing myself, like all the Zoom, the setting up the links, and like managing it. It was a kind of a 24-hour-a-day thing. We weren't very good at it because basically people were calling me 24 hours a day. My Zoom link's down. Should I be rowing now? My calendar says Australia time, and it's supposed to be Boston time. I think I got it screwed up. So there's a lot of me jumping in to cover for people. But we did it. We got to the end of this 10 million meter thing. We actually went 10,500,000 meters by accident. It's a long story, but because my record keeping wasn't as good as I thought it was. And then people, well, it doesn't matter. So we went a little further than we thought. We had a big celebration at the end, and it was really, really empowering for people because people were stuck at home with COVID, and like they didn't know what to do. And this really gave everybody like a sense of purpose. I got to do my shift, keep the relay going. Nobody mix it up. And quite frankly, out of 48 shifts a day over a month, so like say 35 days, we only missed 3 shifts that I was aware of. At least 2 of them we jumped in, but I think 1 was actually a blank shift. Nobody picked up. So in a sense, we didn't make our whole relay. We definitely beat the 3.5 million meters, whatever. But I think at around 6 million, we had a hiccup. So at the end of it, there was probably people from a dozen countries, and we made awards, and it was just a lot of fun. And people were like, when are we going to do this again? When are we going to do this again? And it was such a Herculean effort. I was like, I don't know. And we had another little charity fundraiser in the fall, and people were still nagging me about it. And then one guy reached out to me and said, hey, look, 10 million meters is really cool. What would be really cool is if you rode around the world. And I was like, ding. I was like, you know what? That's what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do. And so I put together like a concept. It took me about a week to like, what would we need to do to make this happen? So this was back in like October. And I said, okay, guys, who would be interested in doing this? And I had like 150 people on my email list from the last one. And I said, who would want to be doing this? And people were like, yeah. And I said, well, I can't do it for free this time, okay? It's going to be a pretty big effort. Like this time we made a website. We had to pay for hosting. We're using Google Meet. I hired like an outside firm to like consult with us on how to like maintain, because we have to maintain a meeting 24 hours a day for 4 months. And I have to coordinate people from around the world for 4 months to keep this thing going. And so I reached out to Guinness and I said, hey, Guinness, I'd like to try to do this as a record. And we'll talk about Guinness in 1 second. Like
yes, we will.
A little something I talk about Guinness first. And then, of course, boom, November comes along, I have my stroke.
Yeah.
So I still said, no, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this. I walked out of the hospital and said, this is going to make this happen. So come December 5th or something like that, I said, okay, we're going to start doing signups. And like 30 people signed up right away. I said, originally I was like, I don't know what to charge for this. And I talked to everybody and they're like, it's got to be at least $100. I mean, I do a 5K, it costs $35. It's got to be at least $100. I said, how about 120? And they're like, that's a great number. Go with that. And so I said $120, and they'll pay for like what it would cost to get into the Guinness, what it would cost for hosting, what it would cost for all this other stuff and awards and all kinds of stuff. And then there'll be something for me at the end. And people were like, yes. So I started to get people to gradually sign up. I put it out on websites. And now we have just about 130 people signed up, and I think we're in 9 or 10 countries, maybe 11 countries. And
Wow.
we're starting tonight at 7 p.m. I'm the first rower, so I could be on top of the leaderboard for an hour.
So when this thing kicks off tonight?
So tonight, another 5 hours. We'll still be like recruiting people because it's a long row. But because people are going to be like gassed in like about a month, and they're like, somebody else come in. I'll come back in a little bit, But we have about enough to do not quite 3 rotations. You know what I mean? Like, because it's 48 hours in a shift.
Okay.
48 shifts in a day. And we don't have quite enough to do 3 of them. But what I saw last time was there's like 10 people that are like, I'm going to go every day, maybe an hour. And so that 48 actually shrinks down to like 36 or something like that. So then we have enough for 3+ rotations. But I'd really like to get it up to about 4, dreamily 5 rotations. I think that would be the number, like 150, I think, or maybe 160 in my head is like, that we're going to make this happen. It's going to happen.
I don't understand exactly what you're saying with that. I mean, you're talking about rotations and shifts and 48 and all that stuff.
So there's a Google Calendar, okay, right? And there's all these buttons on the Google Calendar. 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., okay? Every half hour. And so I go in there and I say, I'm going to pick 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. because they're all half-hour shifts. And I enter my information in there, my telephone number, my contact information. And I go, and I log in. I hold that spot for me, right? Now, someone's picked at 3:30 to 4, and someone's picked 4:30 to 5, okay? And so at 5 minutes to my shift, I turn on Google Meets, and there's a person there rowing. And then I go, hey, I'm here. And they go, hey. And they're like, I'm like, you ready? And they're like, we're ready. And then I start rowing, and then they put their handle down. And so the relay continues. And then they'll take a photo of their screen for records. And then we have a website set up, and they'll enter their information in there. Like, I rowed 5,000 meters in 30 minutes. My name's Bryan. Here's my email address. Boom. And it goes into a spreadsheet, this sort of Tableau thing, and it calculates a leaderboard by country and like our overall total and our remainder.
So how many people do you need for this? I mean, you guys are starting now, but you're saying we can still get involved. Like, I want to do it. I want to get a rowing machine and do it.
No, absolutely. So the sooner you get in, the better. But I expect to add people pretty much for the first 3 months, honestly, because just doing 1 month is a heroic effort. 4 months, we're going to keep adding people, and I suspect as we start to get a little publicity, like this podcast here, and maybe we'll get some newspaper stuff. One of our members was just on BBC, so as we get more and more out there, people will be like, "Hey, I want to jump on too." If we want to be making like this really great community of people like texting each other, like, "Hey, you're coming on, I'm coming on," and like people. Say Pete Turner does 4:30 every day. He winds up seeing me at 4 every day. We're like, hey Pete, how's it going? Like, and then we wind up on Facebook, message each other and stuff like that. What'd you watch today? Oh, I watched the Avengers Endgame, for the 6th time, and so you wind up making friends all over the world. It's a really just kind of a neat experience. And when we finally get to the end, we'll make this huge montage video of all of us rowing. And like adding up the meters and get it narrated, put music in and stuff. It's really cool.
And then, so, I mean, like, look, you can get hurt, going to the thing. What happens if you, okay, no, forget that part. We'll cover that part. Like if you get hurt, like mid shift or something, what happens? But I've never rowed before, right? How far do I have to go? I don't think I can go more than 200 yards. I don't know if 200 yards is a lot. Help me understand for that person who's like, I want to do this. I want to get involved in. I've got a rowing machine. I've been meaning to row. Okay. Talk about that person who's just now getting started at this. Is this too hard for them?
So we have rowers as young as 13 years old and as old, I think it's 87. Okay. So I think we have at least 1 or 2 Olympians that are rowing with us and at least 1 world record holder too. So there's going to be a big difference between how many meters you row in a shift. Like the the slowest rower might row like 4,000 meters, and the fastest might row 8,000 meters.
Okay.
And there'll be everything in between. To row a half hour, it's not as hard as you think. It's a little harder than a light jog for a half hour. Rowing is pretty unique in all sort of exercise, in that it's a very, very low impact exercise. So it's much more impact to go for a walk than it is to go for a row, because you're seated, so you don't have that impact of just stepping up and down. It works out to be like a quarter of your body weight, something along those lines of impact. It's pretty low impact, maybe even a little less than that. And where walking is 1 to 2 body weights of impact, depending whether you're going up or down. And running 2 to 3 times your body weight, depending whether you're going up or down. So it's really low impact. So my point is, people can row throughout their whole life. And so, like I said, we have rowers in their 80s. And I train rowers all the way up into their 80s to compete on the national level. So yeah, I would say anybody that has a tacit interest in athletics and just a little bit of experience rowing can row for a half hour. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
And then, how far is far enough? I mean, like, what's good enough? If I can only do 2,000 meters, is that okay?
It would be. You would have to make an effort to row 2,000 meters. Because if you just kind of hung out on the machine and rowed very casually, you would row 4,000 meters. It would have to be. You would have to really, really think about it to row 2,000 meters in a half hour. Like the slowest people that compete on a national level row the 2K in 10 minutes. So,
okay.
Like people like the lady that I watched, this lady, she was 95 years old, and she rode the 2K in the kind of world champions here in Boston. It's called the Crash Bees. I want to say it was like 11 minutes or something like that. Like 95 years old, and so you almost couldn't. It's just, if you rode 2,000 meters, I would be like, whoa, what happened? Like,
it's like walking 1 mile an hour. You just can't even go that slow.
No,
like if you're moving, you go
really
faster.
Think about it to go that slow. That's a challenge accepted right there. I like that though.
I want to show you something.
Yep.
Look what just happened. I
Boom.
just signed up. Boom. I went over to the link provided, and I signed up. So I'm in.
All right.
I got to pick some scheduled times. I got to get a rowing machine, but I got a line on one. So, but yeah.
All right. Well, it's going to be a concept too. So that's what
I know it.
All right.
Yep.
So you could actually use one at the gym. So if you picked up one at the gym, or like, I mean, if there's one at the gym, you could just, say, I'm going to row now. You put your phone on the machine, and then you can look in.
But it's got to be a concept 2 to row. Tell us what you're saying. Concept 2. Use the full name of that thing so folks can find what you're talking about.
So it's a Concept 2 Model D, which is pretty much all the machines out there. It's about 85% of the whole market, and it has a thing called a PM monitor. It goes from like 2 to 5. But yeah, if you say Concept 2, it's going to be a Model D. They make a thing called a Model E, and they make a dynamic rower, but it's they're so hard to find. They're not anywhere. Everything's the Model D. So yeah. So
and why that model? What's the thing with that?
A couple of Harvard guys. They didn't make the Olympics, and they've invented this machine back in 1980, and it is just totally bulletproof. It lasts forever. It's used by every college across the world. Olympians. I mean, they have some slightly more advanced machines for like the very best rowers in the world, but like this is used just everywhere. They're super inexpensive. It's just really perfectly made. They just nail it. And honestly, it's really, I don't understand how someone else would want to invent a rowing machine, because it's like, this thing's $900. I mean, I don't want to be an ad for Concept 2, but like, it's $900 and it lasts forever. And it's used by everybody. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah. If you go to a Holiday Inn, it's going to be a Concept 2. If you go to the Gold's Gym, it's going to be a Concept 2. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. So
it's so. And then if you look on the screen, if you're on the live side and you're watching the video, there's a link for Amazon. If you go there, we'll get a little piece of that. But I mean, just general Concept 2. I mean, I pulled that right from Amazon. You guys use that link. That really helps us. The other thing I would say is if you're watching, especially on YouTube, subscribe and hit that reminder bell. That really helps us out. That enables you to know, and it also helps us defeat the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. You have to fight this thing tooth and nail. So do me a favor and subscribe, and we're going to get this done. All right. So
can we talk Guinness? Can we talk Guinness at all?
I was just about to say, let's talk Guinness.
All right, let's talk Guinness. All right. So last time when we came up with this idea, I reached out to Guinness, and Guinness is a mysterious company, to say the least. Like there's a telephone number and it never picks up. There's an email, but it's just a message board. It just goes to nobody. So I reached out to them last summer. I said, boy, we would love to set a record for this. We're going to row 10 million meters. Nobody's ever done this before. We set up all these parameters for like managing the process to like, so someone could audit it, right? And be like, we have a photo of the screen. We have the numbers written down. We have who rode, record log, and they could dial it anytime they want. So I reached out to Guinness, and you only have to pay them $5 to apply for a records check. Okay. But there was no records there. So I was like, there's no records there. I'd like to do it. So I reached out to them, and they're really slow about getting back to me. And they finally got back to me after we were done. And they were like, yeah, we wouldn't be able to qualify it because you use some water rowers too. There's like a couple of water rower. And then there was a couple other machines we let, because I didn't know. They never got back to me. I said, okay, so all right, fine. So I reached out to them again when we wanted to do this thing around the world. And I said, we're going to do this thing around the world. Like, this is a big deal. Like, you're going to get a lot of press out of this.
Right.
And I paid my $5 again, signed up. Then they have this other thing called a priority review. So you pay them $1,000 now, okay?
Okay.
They'll call you right away and be like, we'll get you the answer, find out, and we'll get you how to get in the Guinness, right?
Yeah.
So I paid the $5, and I wasn't ready to pay the $1,000 because the $1,000 thing, they give you a call within 5 days. They pay the $5, they call you within 90 days. So I did the $5 way early. So I was like, wait, no problem, right? So it got to like middle of January, and I was like, I still haven't heard from these guys. I'm getting a little nervous now. I told people I was going to get a Guinness Book of World Records out of this, right? I'm getting really nervous now. So I paid the $1,000. Still nothing.
What?
Nothing. Radio silence for 5 days. And after 10 days, I got an email that says, we're really backed up. We'll get back to you within 10 business days. So, I mean, after 5 business days, they get back to me and said, they'll get back to you within 10 business days. Nothing. After 20 business days now, right? I'm starting to panic now because we're only 2 weeks away from doing the row. And so I started to go on all their message boards and be like, nobody's returning my calls. Nobody's returning my calls. Nobody's returning my calls. And you get a little press that way. If you start posting on Facebook, they're not going to return your calls if you pay the money. So someone gave me an email. They're like, we'll get back to you. 3 days later after that, now it's 23 business days, not 5. They get back to me and the message was, yeah, we've done long records in the past, but we prefer records that only take a minute or so. So we're going to pass.
What?
That was their answer. And I was like, what? And I was like, I don't understand. I said, there's just literally a woman who rode across the Atlantic, the youngest woman ever. You guys just recognized her. It was a 70-day event. And
yeah.
They're like, yeah, we do it on occasion, but we really don't want to do it though. It's too much effort. And I said, well, okay, can I have my $1,000 back? Because you guys didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
They're like,
he called me back, and that was it.
They're like, well, we'll send your message to the referral department. And I said,
what?
I said, why don't you give me their number or give me a person I can talk to? So that was 10 days ago now for the referral department. So you expect more of this information to come out in the future of me being like, Guinness, not the record you really want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very unimpressed by them. It's I think it's a matter of, I think they're going to sit on their hands and just be like, this guy will go away and we'll just keep the $1,000.
I have an idea, and you like impossible ideas. Let's make the Fuller and Turner World Record book, and we'll just actually call people back, and Just keep it simple. We can cap out, like, I can swallow 15 swords. We'll be like, no thanks, any more of those for safety's sake. But
what you can, how long can you sit on a hot coal? I don't want to know the answer.
So yeah, okay. And then, are you guys have a charity element in this world record? Possibly.
So last time we did rowers, the border rowers, or Rowers Without Borders. We raised money for Doctors Without Borders.
Okay.
So Doctors Without Borders is one of the top charities for handling COVID around the world, and we wanted to pick an international charity that was really relevant for everybody. So whether we had rowers in France or Italy or Greece or England or Ireland or Australia, it didn't matter. This was a charity that everybody could be like, this is something you really get behind. And they're a really good organization. So last time we raised them $8,500. We were trying to raise them $10,000 because we did 10 million meters. We got pretty close. And that was just from donations from the people that rowed. This time we're trying to raise $40,000 because we're rowing 40 million meters. Well, we probably won't make it. But I'm going to start hitting up businesses to be like, would you like to put your logo on our website? Would you like to sponsor us? Maybe give us $5,000 or something like that, or some money, and we can promote you, and try to get that money up to $40,000 for Doctors Without Borders, and that's actually a lot of money for them. They would really appreciate that.
Yeah, nice. And are you going to approach anybody for a matching donation? Like whatever. I mean, Boston Consulting Group. Can you kick in the match? For what you do?
That's a really great idea. I hadn't really thought about that, but a lot of the companies, especially in the Boston area, a lot of the companies have matching donations. So yeah, I will ask our members that do donate. So if they donate $100 or $500 or whatever, see if their company does a matching donation. So that would be really great because that would get us.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love it. So I want to ask a couple other simple questions. When you go to sit down and you do your row, is someone monitoring you at all, or is this all honor system and photos?
So the feed is available. So I'm going to have the feed open on my computer and another person's computer 24 hours a day. And so Google Meet stays open for 300 hours. So once a week, I refresh the screen. So I have to turn off all my updates. Can't get any updates anymore. No computer can't shut down. Right. So I'll have a little window up for Google Meets open 24 hours on my computer. And so every once in a while, like I could do cover it over and then, oh, hey, you guys still there? You still there? And like people will be calling me if the person doesn't show up. Trust me, no matter what time of the day, they will be calling me 3 in the morning. The person at 3:30 hasn't showed up. I don't know what's going on. Should I keep rowing? And then I usually get up and I get on the machine and I'll start rowing. And then the other person's like, I've been here the whole time. I don't know why the video feed's just not on.
Oh.
And I'm going back to bed. So this is one of the challenges for the next 3 months for me is managing this. And we're going to be. Last time I did it all by myself, and it was a lot of 3 a.m.s. This time, I'm going to get some regional captains to be like, there'll be someone in the West Coast, someone in Boston, someone in England, probably. Oh, all right, there we go.
I karate chopped my computer. That's all. It's okay.
Well, you get that deadly thing. You get too close to Pete, and he's automatically does it. So yeah, I'll probably have some regional captains. So there'll be a call tree for someone in that area that will probably be awake at that point.
You got a captain for Southern California yet? I mean, you have one now, but do you have one yet?
We'll hold off on that. Let's see if you get a rowing machine first, because I want to be able to get captain.
I just have to pick it up. I got it all covered.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe that.
So unless your sister wants to do it, your sister can kick my ass at rowing.
I shouldn't want to row. I will. I'm going to put an ad out for captains probably starting on Monday. So the first 3 days, I found last time we did this first 3 days, we had all sorts of hiccups. We had to reboot. I'm crossing my fingers that's not going to happen this time, because we really spent a long time preparing for this. We got a lot of stuff out of the way, trying to figure things out. But that being said, there could be hiccups along the way. So if we have to reboot, I want to make sure that we get this get this right in the first 3 days. So I'm not asking anybody else. So I'm just going to spend 3 sleepless nights trying to
getting it all set up. Yeah.
Making sure that it's all working and that it's happening. Like, I mean, I'm getting messages right now. They're like, I've been doing my row for a half hour. When is someone taking over for me? And I'm like, we're not starting till 7 tonight. We're not starting till 7 tonight. Oh, I read that at 7 a.m. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The people are just please read the emails, like, so we've been holding like training sessions. So I do a Zoom call with a training session. Like, this is how it's going to work. This is how you do the handoff. And I've trained maybe about 80 or 90 out of the 130 people. So, and a lot of people are redoing this thing. It should be self-explanatory, but
nothing is self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory. If there was just one big red button on the table, someone would be like, I don't know if I should pull that or not.
Is that the red button? Is that the red button?
Push the red button. So usually it's more about like what I say versus what people hear, and I acknowledge that. Like I'm trying to train something that I'm learning myself, so there's probably things I'm not really explaining correctly, and I'm sure people are like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What do you mean 30-minute shifts? Like, how did someone come to my house and start rowing on my machine? How does that work? So there's going to be a lot of that, and like there's a learning curve, and then people will get it and be like, oh, got it now. Now I got it, and like people will really get into it. So it's going to happen. Like I said, 99% of it's probably on me trying to explain things badly. And then people going, I just don't understand what he's saying.
Well, you are coordinating a multinational effort, with a lot of people, a lot of time zones, some people not doing daylight savings times,
Some people English as their first language. So it's complicated. And like, first of all, I had to like sell them on the idea. Hey, we're going to do this. How would you like to be part of it? And they're like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. And I'm like, I know. Just join us. Give me $120. Give me $120. Just trust me, it's fine. And like, it was really good that we did this once before because people were like I had a whole group of people, like 80 out of like the 130 people I did said, we're on it again. Got it, no problem. And they went out and recruited other people too. So that was really the big effort. That was a big thing that helped. But yeah, it's US Rowing's promoted it. Concept 2 has promoted it. Even FISA, which is International Rowing, is going to promote it. I think
nice.
I think British Rowing did something too. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that some people have spoken to British Rowing about it too as well. So we have a ton of British people in this competition.
No, that's fantastic. So let's cover the basics again. So someone who wants to sign up can go to this link that I'm about to put on the screen, and I'm going to say the words out loud. So in case you're listening on the podcast side, borderrowers.com, borderrowers.com, and it's BORDERROWERS.com, borderrowers.com.
Yep.
And then if you go there, it's very self-explanatory. You sign up, you fill out your information, and then presto changeo. And then I guess after that, you go into a queue where you can pick the shift that you want. I'm assuming, Bryan. Everything. Signing up was pretty simple. I did it. It was easy.
Yeah, it's actually, it should be. We have really good web developers. I think it's honestly a really good looking website. There's like a kind of the history of what we did before in the past. There's a ton of photos, and if you get a chance, you can click on the video from last time. It's actually really funny. We have someone who's in a little theater work, and she put it together for us. And she's really amazing. Her name's Bethany, and she came up with like a storyline for our video, and they got a narrator and stuff, and like people dressed up for it, and like. I didn't realize people were doing all these things. Like people wore like tuxedos, and like people wore like. There was one guy had like a parakeet on his shoulder, and like another person was rowing outside. There was a kangaroo in the background. So yeah, it was quite a it was quite a fun video. So this time we'll have to try to outdo that thing. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we had a really good time with it.
You mentioned good looking. I just wanted to pull this up and show everybody. Now that is good looking. Look at that. That tandem.
Those are two good looking guys.
That was us playing golf in Vegas on a super hot day. And
you worked for Golf Magazine at that time, didn't you? Or Golf
Vegas golfer. Yeah. So we played some free golf. And I don't play golf anymore. I was terrible. Bryan probably had never played and was instantly better than me. I never liked golf, and so I haven't missed it. But I did have a good time golfing with you.
I had a great time golfing with you, and I'm not a good golfer. I'm definitely not a good golfer.
Oh no, that's true too. I'm just better than me. I'm going to give you all the credit.
Yeah.
You might shoot 220. I'll shoot 250. You know.
I guess that qualifies you as a better golfer.
Yeah. And there's probably a good chance that if we're drinking, at some point, Bryan and I will probably smash each other with our clubs, because that's really what we're built to do.
Or smash something on the green too.
Man, this is awesome. I love that you're doing it. I love to support what you're doing. I mean, I've got to put my hands on my machine, but everything seems to be lined up. And if I was home, I probably would have it already. I'm on the road right now. I'm actually got to make sure I mention this. I'm recording from Jason Diavadis's place. It's his speakeasy in Benicia, and his restaurant is called The Loft. And in the back, there's the speakeasy that you can't tell anybody about, but we're on the internet talking about it. But yeah, definitely thanks to Jason, and anybody who's in Benicia or whatever, come on down to this place. It's really, really nice. And if you don't know where Benicia is, it's really, really nice. So definitely thanks to Jason for that. Bryan, what look, I pounded you for the last 45 minutes with questions and stuff. What do you want to talk to me about? You want to ask me any questions? You want to reminisce? What do you want to do now?
Well, how much time we got?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. All right. Pete, tell me a little bit about the Break It Down show. I mean, like, how did this, I've been on the show a couple times. I've never heard the history of, like, how did you come to do this? Now, look, I want to point this out for people that don't know Pete. So I've known Pete for a long time, and Pete's really into sports. And we used to read all the sports columns when we were overseas. And I think we read Rob Nair. I don't even know if he does it. I don't know if he still writes or not. But and like a couple of guys from Boston that we read. So Pete used to write his own sports column that didn't necessarily go anywhere, but he'd submit his articles, and they were really good, really good. I remember reading them, going, "Wow, this is great." Let's get the next edition. He's like, so yeah. So yeah, Pete's always been something of a commentator, and so when he started doing this, I was like, huh. And then I was like, boy, he's really good at this. But I've never really gotten the story of, like, how we put the headphone off the first time. Where'd that come about?
It all comes together in the rearview mirror. You're like, this all makes sense. My buddy Corey and I used to take our headphones and flip them around, and they would be a microphone if you plugged them into the mic jack. And so as kids, like maybe tweens, maybe as early as tweens, for sure no older than 13, we started recording our own little show. We would just be silly, and there's probably cassette tape somewhere with it. And so I guess I've been doing it the whole time. And my degree is in TV radio, so all of these things go together because, it just, that's how life is, right? And so I've always sort of been into this. And so when I came back from Afghanistan for the last time, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. I'm tired of being shot at and burning up my life. I still wanted to tell stories. And Bryan, you know how this is. Like, you go on a patrol, you gather information, you provide your observations, give some analysis, and then you repeat. And that's really what this show has become. So when John and I started, we were doing a community radio thing. John Leon Guerrero was the co-founder of the show. And we would talk on this community radio thing. And they're like, hey, you guys are it's too big. Go do something bigger. Like, this is community radio. This is for people talking about their cookbook, whatever. Get out of here. And so they kicked us out of the nest and said, go build it bigger. And we came out blazing with incredible people. I mean, musicians from bands that everybody's heard of, and all kinds of incredible people. Mm-hmm. And we just have kept going, and it just keeps continuing to get bigger and better and more exciting. And it's amazing. Bryan, I think you'll appreciate this because you've built something similar with your, although you're more profitable than I am. But
not right now, I'm not.
I bet you're not. I don't know. We'll see. But I can pitch the show, and I can say something like, hey, would you come on the Break It Down show? We've had multiple gold medalists, multi-Grammy winners, meaning won more than one Grammy in the same night. Our musical guests have sold over 1.7 billion records. We've had Pulitzer Prize winners, all and down the line. We're Nobel Peace Prize winners. Could you come on the show? And people are like, yeah, of course. And so the show has power that I don't have. Where, like, if Pete reaches out and I'm like, hey, Pulitzer Prize winning author, I'm Pete. Would you like to come on my show? No. But if I say the Break It Down show is, and they go, yeah, I'd love to come on the show. So I know people that make movies and TV and music and write incredible books. And Bryan, it's just been incredible. But all it really is just spy stuff. It's just me meeting people, asking questions, you know?
That honestly, Pete sort of nailed the whole spy thing. Is like, so what we, if you weren't paying attention or if you weren't watching, you weren't thinking about when this came on, Pete sort of said, give me a little push down the hill. He said, go ahead, talk. And then I'll just listen. That's 99% of spycraft right there. The other 1% is writing reports. And that's what Pete's always been really, really good at. Oh, you want to talk about something? You talk about yourself. Tell me all about it. And then people just, let it go, And so he gets a very honest interview. More honest than I think a lot of other interviews what I see on TV where the interviewer is always leading the person. So if there's one thing you couldn't vote for by this one person, rather than what are you passionate about? What do you want to see pass as legislation? I think that would be a much better question. Never hear those kind of questions.
I like questions where, like, I give you the power, and I'll say, hey, because Bryan's very thoughtful on the political scope, and he'll post in this on Facebook. That's not a surprise because it's on Facebook. And if I was to ask a question normally, and this was the kind of guest Bryan was, I would say, hey, Bryan, I'm going to give you control. You're Secretary of State, and you get to twist one knob one day. What knob are you going to twist? What switch are you going to flip? What's one change you would make? Simple change. What would you do?
For Secretary of State?
Yep.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I haven't really thought about Secretary of State. I would probably, initially I would say something about tariffs or like trade in general. But I think, Secretary of State, I would like to see people just travel more, honestly. I think just some way to make it easier for people just to be like, here's my ID. And I know people have passports and stuff like that, but there's visas in countries, and some countries you can't go to, and some countries just make it just, you can just go across the border, check it out, have a look. In my dream world, Secretary of State, there's still countries, but like you're kind of a citizen of the planet. You can just travel the world and see everything out there. I find the more I see, the more I realize how myopic I am, and like how incredible everything else is. So when you broaden your view of the world, you're like, well, you know what, that makes a lot of sense, you get a much more nuanced view of everything. You don't just say, my little spot in the world is the best parts of the world. It's great for me, but like there's other things out there. So I think that's my Secretary of State answer right there.
I like more travel is a good thing. Another question. Bryan has got a fantastic background in Greeks and history, and I mean his email is his email is Brasidius. I mean, come on. So
he was a general in ancient Athens. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but this is the point, right? Like you care about these kind of things.
Yep.
Are we a little bit too hard on ourselves? I mean, we're trying to solve the problems that the Greeks were trying to solve. I mean, some of these problems are the human condition, So are we too hard on ourselves for what we expect?
I think that the problems are obviously reoccurring. Like the old adage is like, these kids today, they don't have any education, right? And like the same person that did whatever they did when they were a kid, it's really a challenge to have everybody take a step back and be like, we're all in this together. It's really easy, I think, for people to say it's us and them can be anything other than you. So there's always a real challenge there, and I think that challenge has been happening in civilization since time immemorial. And I think we're making a lot of the same mistakes because it's not really something we really try to teach. We try to teach how to accumulate wealth. We try to teach how to survive, how to find a place in the world, but we don't necessarily try to teach how to be part of the world. So it's very easy for us to keep making those same mistakes over and over again. And it isn't necessarily about a system of government, or it's So I think we need to start changing the way we think about things. And I don't know how to even approach that as a concept. But yeah, the same problems were happening in ancient Greece. It's just a bigger scale. Kings, queens, democracy, doesn't matter. So yeah, that's like a non-answer answer. So my answer is like, I'm not really sure.
It's not an easy question, I mean,
easy question.
Are we too hard on ourselves? Maybe we're not hard enough. I don't know the answer. I do know that if we look out for one another, if we do our best to be our best, a lot of these problems are solvable. And I can say specifically from being in places where instability is the norm, it's the nano, the pico problem, the super small problem that you can fix. Like right now, if you and I found a veteran that didn't have and I use this example all the time because it's so simple, who's a couple of years behind on their car registration, and they're just never going to be able to put that $1,200 together to get over that hump. You and I could go out right now and solve that problem within a day if we really were focusing on it and put that person on a better platform. We're not giving them anything incredible. We're just solving a tiny money problem for them. But for them, it's a mountain, and they can't get over it, and you give up, and you're like, who cares? And give me another ticket. And they take my car. They take my car. That's no way to get to a thriving position. And we suck at that. We suck at it on the left. We suck at it on the right. We just get mad at each other. And like you said a few minutes ago, if we spent more time understanding the condition of other people through travel, through experience, through tolerance, no one wants to borrow anybody else's trouble. Just deal with the trouble. You can improve. I mean, you said we're going to row around the world. The next thing I know you're going to do this. It's not my idea. It's your idea. I'm just telling it to you from the future. You're going to say, now we're going to row to the moon, 250,000 miles. We're going to do it. I know you're going to do these things because this is how you lead.
There'll be some other challenge I'm going to come up with after this. I promise. This is probably border rowers is something I'm going to do every year going forward. I'm not sure that I'll do it in this capacity. It might be go back to 10 million meters in the future. Because the experience being part of this like global community is just so great. And raising more money for charity is just great. It's a great feeling. Every late February, early March, we roll this thing out, kind of kill the winter, and find some mutual interests around the world. I think it's a wonderful thing.
I love it. Well, listen, everybody, you can head over to borderrowers.com and sign up and support. What if they just want to donate and support the cause, but they don't want to row? Where do they go?
So, yeah, you can go to Border Rowers. There's a link to Doctors Without Borders. We'll have a little thermometer there. Hopefully we'll get towards the top of it when it's like red hot. We're there. Like I said, they're a terrific organization. Lovely, lovely people. Essentially, if you don't know what Doctors Without Borders is doctors donate their time to go to different places in the world that don't have medical care. And so they might donate a week or something like that, and then go there. And then the Doctors Without Borders helps organize supplies, and it's just a great organization. And obviously right now with COVID and everything like that, medical personnel are in short supply everywhere. So yeah. Anything we can do for them would be great.
It's a great cause. All right, let me wrap this thing up. Hey, if you guys want to support the show, you can always go to my PayPal account. A little bit of money each month is big. It's a big difference. It all goes right back into this show, whether it's equipment or getting, help me pay my Macedonians that I have that work with me, or just, help me buy ads. So that's a big way to do it. You can always support the show that way. You can always go to savethebrave.org, click on the donate tab, put in money each month. For sure, go check out Power Rowing in Brookline, Mass. If you're anywhere near Brookline, Bryan, you can do remote training with people too, right? They don't have to be from Boston.
So I offer so I get people calling me from all around the world to learn how to row. I'm an indoor rower. I've become kind of something of an expert on indoor rowing. I've been teaching it for 4 years now. I'm a certified instructor with Concept 2. So people call me all the time. They're like, what do you think of my form? And I'm like, let me help you out. And so I'll do a Zoom class with them. A lot of times, for a half hour, we charge $50. If you can't afford it, just let me know and I'll do it for free. But then we offer indoor, all of our rowing classes and all our classes in general, all online. And so if you're interested in trying to take one of our classes, we have rowers. I have regulars from England. They take my early classes. I get people on the West Coast, Texas. I worked with someone from Israel the other day. I taught one guy in China the other day, and another person from India. I had a regular for a long time in Australia. We just work out the time zone difference. But yeah, if you need help with your form, you're new to rowing, I can definitely help you out.
Everybody go check out Bryan at Power Rowing. All right, let me run this video. Stand by.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours